Welcome to How to Play Ambient Guitar, episode 21. If you haven't seen the other 20 episodes, I'll include a link to it around here somewhere so you can check out the series. Anyway, on today's video, what I'd like to really look at and cover are some tips for achieving a good tone in your ambient guitar patch. So we're going to kind of walk through several different aspects that I think are important for good tone production and ultimately getting a really nice sound out of your ambient guitar patch. So let's go ahead and get started. This is where your tone production really starts. It's in your hands. It's in your hands. And so decision point number one is fingers versus pick, or perhaps both. And I do have an episode on hybrid picking where you use both. That's what I'm going to kind of do today. It's actually very important how you pick. Here's a guitar pick. Here's my finger. So you can hear the finger is a little less sharp, little fuller sounding than the pick is. And that's a really important factor as you're playing, because you can use a combination of fingers and picks. You can use all fingers, you can use all picks, and really affect your tone. That's number one, fingers versus picks. The next factor or tip to consider is if you are using a pick, what kind of pick are you using? So I've got a few here. Let's start with a very thin pick. So you can see that's very flexible, very thin. And let me just play with that a little bit. So thin picks tend to give you more of that pick slap. They also tend to emphasize the highs, the treble, if you will, the upper spectrum of the guitar string. If you use a thicker pick, let me grab the one I dropped here. This one happens to be a 1.4 millimeter bluegrass pick. And listen to this here. Now let me go back to that thin pick. So you can really hear the difference. This one is a little thicker sounding, the 1.4 millimeter. Okay, and finally, I have another example. It's a 2.5 millimeter pick. Okay, sloppy playing, but you get the picture. The pick that you use can greatly affect your tone. Also, where you pick in the length of the string affects your tone too. So I'm back to the medium kind of gauge in my world. That's the 1.4. And so let me show you what I mean. So if I pick near the bridge, okay, versus near the neck, and then even picking over the neck itself. They all produce different tones. Obviously, bridge is, emphasizing a very sharp kind of sound. As you move towards the neck, you get a lot mellower. Okay, so those are fingers and picks. Important first decisions. Next decision on the guitar itself, you've got some controls, and those are going to affect your tone. You've got bridge versus neck pickups depending on your guitar. So here's the neck pickup on my guitar. Here's the bridge pickup on my guitar. Okay, so that's going to really affect your tone too. So choose the correct pickup for the type of song you're playing. If you want a sharp sound, then pick that, select the bridge pickup. If you want a mellower sound, select the neck pickup. Also, I've mentioned this on a few earlier episodes, but the tone control on your guitar can be immensely important. I never used to use my tone control. I would just leave it at 10 all the time and not worry about it. I, however, at some point discovered that if you roll the tone back on any given setting, it really mellows your sound out. And if you're careful with it, you can really use it to your advantage. So here's the guitar with the tone control all the way up. Okay, I'm going to roll it down to about 5 or so. Isn't that cool? I have to tell you, I never ever run any of my guitars with the tone control all the way up. I always roll it off a little bit because I like the mellowness that it gives me. That might not work for you, or it may only work for you every now and then. Be aware, though, that that tone control can massively affect the overall tone of your guitar. All right, so I've made a couple of selections. I'm using a 1.4 millimeter pick. I've got my tone control rolled down to about 5. I'm using both the bridge and the neck pickups, and here's my overall tone. All right, so next, what I'd like to do is look at how the effects that you use affect the tone of what you're playing. So first off, if you look down at the pedals that I have arrayed, to my right, probably your left, there is a blue compressor, and I've had it turned on the whole time. So compressors actually can affect your tone in a fairly significant way. So let me play you this basic tone without the compressor, and then I'm going to put it back in the chain. Here we go, without compressor. All right, with compressor. Isn't that interesting? The compressor, in squashing the dynamics a little bit, in this case brings up the low mids and the lows a little bit, so the overall tone of the guitar is fuller. Now that works for me. Again, depending on what you're playing, it may not work for you, but you should be aware of what a compressor can do to your tone. So once again, without. And with. Okay, that's the compressor. Now, what else can affect your tone in terms of pedals? Distortion. If you're going to color this kind of plain vanilla clean sound with a distortion, you need to be very aware of the tone controls on your distortion pedal and how they're affecting the overall tone of the signal. So let me go ahead and turn it on. And this is where I normally keep the distortion setting, somewhere in this area. And you can hear it works really well if you're doing volume pedal work with the distorted tone. Okay, now, if I start playing around the tone controls, let's bring up the treble all the way. Oh, I should mention right now the bass and treble controls are about in the middle. So I'm going to bring up the treble control all the way. All right, so for me, that's kind of nasty. Let's bring it all the way down and see what we have. Not so nasty, but muddy. Okay, so for me, just a little bit past noon is where I like it. All right, let's do the bass. Bass all the way out. Now, if you've got an arrangement with lots of guitars, you probably want to drop out some of the bass. All right, bass all the way up. Here we go. Okay, so that's a lot. There's a lot more beef in the sound, and that can actually get a little muddy, again, if you've got a large arrangement of instruments. Let me put it back. All right, so that's distortion. Let's move on to delays. So I'm going to go back to my clean tone. Ah, nice. And I'm going to throw in a delay. This is the Avalanche Run. I selected this because it's a nice, simple mono delay. So let me go ahead and turn it on, and here's what we have dialed up. All right, so you might be thinking, okay, Bill, well, that's just a delay. What about the tone? Well, one of the other reasons I selected the Avalanche Run is because it does have a tone control, and I think this will help you see how different delay tones affect your sound. So right now, I've got the tone control on the Avalanche Run at about, I don't know, close to 2 o'clock. And what happens on the Avalanche Run is you begin to bring the tone control up. As each delay repeats, each repeat of the delay, I should say, more and more of the low end drops out. So let me bring that all the way up. And then let me just play something, you'll hear what I mean. Okay, so you can really hear how the bottom end drops out. So what does that mean? When you play a song with it, you're going to hear the delay, but not a lot of bottom end, and that can keep things from getting muddy. Okay, yeah, pretty cool. Now, if we turn it all the other way on the Avalanche Run, each repeat is going to begin to drop out the treble and just leave you with the bass or the low frequencies. Here we go. Yeah, you can hear how that just kind of goes bleh. But you might think, well, why would I ever want that? Well, if you really just want a little wash and you kind of don't even want people to know necessarily you have a delay going on, it could be a good choice. Okay, your delay may have different tone controls, if it does have tone controls, than the Avalanche Run, but you'll be able to do something similar if you've got a low or high cut filter on that delay. So here's where I normally keep it, where I'm going to keep it for the rest of this episode. Okay, so we're dropping out just a little bit of the lows as we repeat, and we get plenty of repeats that way. All right. Finally, reverbs. Many reverbs also have tone controls on the pedals that you can work with to really adjust how they react. So I've got the Neunaber Immerse here on the floor, and it just happens to have a tone control. So let's listen to what I've got dialed up in terms of a reverb. This is just the guitar and a little compressor and the reverb. Yeah, I've done other episodes on the Immerse. It's a great reverb. But what the purpose of using it here, so you can hear what happens when I crank the tone control up and we end up cutting lows and boosting highs. Here we go, listen to this. That is one sharp reverb. All right, very sharp reverb. There we go. And it may or may not work for what you're looking to accomplish. So that tone control can come in handy. Let's roll it all the way down. You know, I like the tone of that reverb, but it doesn't really match the tone of the guitar, right? It's too mellow for the tone of the guitar. So if I bring the tone control up more towards the mid portion, it's going to match the guitar a little bit better. Okay, cool. Now, if I roll down the tone control on the guitar and maybe select the neck pickup, let's roll down the tone on the reverb. Here, now that might be a little muddy for you, but hear how the reverb complements the tone of the guitar. So that's one thing I think, especially with reverbs, you can play around with to get the right tone. Have the reverb decay, try to match it to the tone of your guitar. Let's listen to the delay and the reverb together now that we've got kind of everything dialed in and see what we have. Now let's try some distortion. I've rolled the tone control all the way down on my guitar. I really like playing distorted tones like that. Well, there you have it. Some tips, maybe some tricks, and some concepts to think about as you dial in the tone of your ambient guitar patch. Remember, every part of your signal chain is important when it comes to producing a good tone, the tone that you're looking to get as you develop your ambient guitar patch. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. I've got ambient guitar related content coming every week. I'd love to have you on board. Also, if you've not yet done so, I would also really love it if you would check out Chords of Orion Music. I've got some links hanging around here. I also have Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff, links in the video description. And as always, I'll see all of you on the next video.